Welcome back to a Slice of News, where I cut you off a slice of news. Begun in 2023, the Gateway Project would build a new railway tunnel under the Hudson River that would connect Amtrak and regional transit trains between New York City and New Jersey. At a cost of $16 billion, it was one of the most ambitious and expensive infrastructure projects in American history. In addition to building this new tunnel, it would also involve much needed repairs to a 116-year-old transit tunnel that had been damaged during Superstorm Sandy back in 2012. The funds for the project were already congressionally approved back in 2021 under the federal infrastructure law signed by President Joe Biden. $1 billion of that appropriated $16 billion has already been spent, but the administration has decided to withhold the rest. With the funding stopped, the work has had to stop, and state officials are saying that it may cost $100 million per day as long as the work is not being done. And if the project ends up being canceled entirely, it could put over 1,000 workers out of a job. The administration initially justified withholding those funds, claiming that they had been allocated based on unconstitutional DEI principles. And back in October, the president insinuated he was interested in canceling several Manhattan-based projects Chuck Schumer was in favor of, likely in retaliation for the Democrats having kept the government shut down in an effort to extend the Affordable Care Act subsidy. Suffice to say, it's a big deal project, and ending it would cost $20 billion in economic activity. To say it would be catastrophic would be an understatement. But at long last, President Trump may be ready to agree to release the funds. But in typical Trump fashion, there's a catch. Reportedly, he'd be willing to reinstate the funds if Washington Dulles International Airport and Penn Station, New York City, are named after him. I suppose he felt Ronald Reagan got to have Washington National Airport named after him. He should get to have the other Washington, D.C. based airport. And this comes not even 2 months after he already slapped his name on the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. Our president is an incredibly vain man who has the compulsion to put his name on everything he possibly can, like he's claiming it as his own personal property. Were these name changes somehow approved, they would join a long list of Trump-named things that he has no direct connection to, yet he has put his name upon it, so people will associate him with them when they would otherwise have no reason to. It's what he's always done, even before he went into politics. Most of the Trump properties around the world have his name on them, but he had absolutely nothing to do with their construction. He simply licensed out his name to add his personal brand onto those properties. But while the Trump name is literally his brand, holding up desperately needed funding purely to add to his vanity and add to his stable of things named after him is also very much on brand for him. It didn't matter how much it was going to cost the local economy. It didn't matter how many jobs it could potentially cost. It didn't matter if this money had already been approved years ago. Trump saw an opportunity to get something for himself, and he took it. In typical mobster fashion, it would be a shame if something were to happen to your little tunnel project. Maybe you can give me something in return and you can get your tunnel back on schedule. But the demand to be allowed to rename Penn Station and Dulles International after himself in exchange for the money is, as New York Senator Kristen Gillibrand put it, ridiculous. She went on to say, "These naming rights aren't tradable as part of any negotiations, and neither is the dignity of New Yorkers. At a time when New Yorkers are already being crushed by high costs under the Trump tariffs, the president continues to put his own narcissism over the good-paying union jobs this project provides and the extraordinary economic impact the Gateway Tunnel will bring." And she's right. The president essentially holding these previously appropriated funds hostage purely in service of his own vain need to see his name put on yet another notable landmark is just wrong. And as she said, ridiculous. If the president is that desperate to have an airport named after him, both Tennessee and Florida are both considering naming one of their airports after him. But of course, even if both of those airports were named after him, it still would not be enough. He wants Dulles because it's in the heart of the D.C. area. He wants something in the seat of power named after him. And he can't take Ronald Reagan's name off of National Airport. So he has to settle for the other DC area airport. There's been a lot of speculation why, other than just plain old narcissism and vanity, why it is that the president is seemingly so obsessed with naming everything he possibly can after himself, and how lately he's seemed to turn that desire up to 11. Now, I've got a theory as to why he's doing it. I can't prove it, but I think I have a fairly solid theory. To put it simply, I think he's dying, and I think he knows it. And I mean, we're all dying, it just depends on how fast. But his death might be at the speed of one of the trains that would be going through the tunnel he's not letting them finish building. While the administration repeatedly claims that the president is in peak health and is an amazing, healthy man who's big and strong, I think it's pretty much public knowledge that he's anything but. Whether it's massively swollen ankles, or bruises on his hands that seem to refuse to heal, or a diet that's reportedly consisting of McDonald's, candy, and Diet Coke, it's pretty clear that the president's health is anything but good. But I surmise that as bad as it looks like his health is, it's actually even worse than is publicly known. And privately he knows his health has reached the point of no return, and his days might be quite literally numbered. So as a result, he's desperate for a legacy. So he wants to be immortalized even after his physical body has failed him and he's taken the permanent trip downtown. He wants to be remembered and revered long after he's gone, and his solution is to put his name on all the things. It's one of the reasons he was so dead set on destroying part of the east wing of the White House so he could build his grand ballroom, because he believes that he can cement his legacy on the people's house, removing part of it and replacing it with something of his own making. Even if a future administration demolished it entirely and rebuilt the East Wing exactly as it once was, it will forever be where the old East Wing used to be and where former President Trump's ballroom used to be. So his name will forever be associated with that spot, unfortunately. It's really quite sad when you think about it. Other presidents didn't need to have airports or buildings named after them to be remembered. Their legacies were more than just having their name on a bunch of things. But Donald Trump has not given the American people anything of great substance with which to remember him by, so he has to put his name on things, otherwise he risks being forgotten, and his time in office relegated to a historical footnote in future history books. I guess in a lot of ways his name is all he really has. He's terrible as a businessman, he's terrible as a world leader. If it weren't for his Trump name, he would be a nobody, rightfully forgotten by history and time. And to a narcissist like Donald Trump, being forgotten is the worst thing that could possibly happen. It honestly reeks of desperation, a knowledge that he cannot be remembered through the merits of his own actions, so he needs to force people to remember him by emblazoning his name on as many things as possible before he goes. And the thing is, he doesn't have to go to these lengths to be remembered. He will be remembered post-mortem, just not in the way he wants to be. He's already secured his legacy as one of the most derided and disliked presidents in American history. His time in office will be spoken of with as much disgust as Nixon or Andrew Jackson. So much so that people already can't wait to take his name off the things he's put it on, and he's not even dead yet. He will be remembered, but as a black stain upon the history of this country that will take generations to fully wipe off. He will forever be reviled rather than simply remembered. And that will be a legacy entirely of his own making. His most fanatical of supporters may continue to revere him, but the rest of us could not be happier to move on beyond Donald Trump. He may not want a negative legacy, but that's exactly what he will get. Because as president, he has made this country worse in just about every way possible. So if he thinks putting his name on an airport and a train station is somehow going to mitigate that, he is unfortunately quite mistaken. I think in the end, it's a pretty safe bet he's not going to get his way here. And Dulles Airport and Penn Station are not going to be renamed the Donald Trump International Airport and Donald Trump Station, even if that will mean that the Gateway Project will have its funds indefinitely held, and the project will be effectively halted, resulting in a huge financial burden for New Jersey, and actually resulting in a public safety risk, as it will cause them to have to rely on older tunnels for longer than was anticipated, and increasing the potential for one of them to fail, causing a massive loss of life. But Donald Trump doesn't care about the cost. He doesn't care about the money. He doesn't care about the possible loss of life. As everything in his life, it's all about what do I personally get out of it? How does it benefit me? And the consequences to him are simply not a relevant factor. The president didn't have to turn this into a quid pro quo situation, but he chose to, because his vanity and his need for post-mortem validation simply would not let him not do so. The people of New York and New Jersey don't deserve this. The American people don't deserve this. The Gateway Project shouldn't be held for ransom simply so the president can have his name put on yet more things he had absolutely nothing to do with. Like a child wanting their name put on a group project they contributed nothing toward. We can only hope that the funds are released soon, and without the ludicrous renaming stipulation. That infrastructure project needs to get back on track, both figuratively and literally. Alright guys, that'll be it for this episode of A Slice of News. I've been your host, Mr. Slice, and until next time when I cut you off another slice of news. And don't forget to rate and review this show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you might find it.